Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shoot to Make podcast with Dennis Stanton, episode 7. Very excited for today. We have a very special guest, Mike Dunn, one of the best shooters I've ever seen in my life live, and he is going to be joining us here today. We're a little bit different process here today. Instead of going on the app, we actually have a video conference going through Zoom meeting, so we appreciate you, Zoom. And Mike, welcome here today.
Yeah, man. Shoot to make, not to take, right?
That's it. For those that don't know Mike, like I said, we connected this summer through our basketball camp. He came out and spoke to our camps and did an incredible job and just crushed it, both from a speaking, demonstrating, but also skill standpoint as well. And Mike is from Harrisburg, went to Central Dauphin High School where he was an incredible player, good enough to get a scholarship from Philadelphia University, which is now Jefferson University. He had an incredible career there where he was an all-conference player, scored over 1,300 points, second in three-pointers behind Brent Welton. Shout out to Brent Welton if you're listening. That's my former teammate from Sunny Hill. And then since then, Mike has truly reinvented himself, working with players all over the globe. And he's established an incredible online following of 200,000 followers on Instagram, works with high-level collegiate players, NBA players from all over the world. But getting to know Mike, most importantly, Mike is a humble, creative, and extremely talented person. So we're really blessed to have him on here today. So we're going to dive right into it, Mike. What we'd like to do is start from the beginning. You know, let's get back to Harrisburg. Let's get back to Central Dauphin. Maybe you could tell our listeners kind of how it all started for you with basketball and your journey.
Yeah, man. I think it's like anybody. I played baseball forever up until I was like 13. I didn't really start playing basketball until I was like 12 or 13. And then I picked up a basketball, and it was like the first time I picked it up. That was it. It was like, because you could do it by yourself.
Yes.
I like my alone time. I really like doing things by myself. And that right there was like the key for me I can work on my game whenever I want to work on it. My dad did the whole setup in the backyard. Like he saw I took to it. So he painted the court up. We had a guy that lived next door to us that installed parking lights like for stadiums.
Okay.
So like if you go to the Sixers game, Wells Fargo Center, those big lights that are in the parking lot, he installed those. So we got one of his lights and just stuck it to the side of our house, and then just lit up the entire backyard. Lit up everybody's backyard. But but I would be out there in the summertime forever, man. Like forever. And that's kind of how it started. I just fell in love with being able to be in control of your own destiny. You know what I mean? Like that's the coolest part to me. That's the coolest part about basketball is you can get better by yourself. You don't need anybody else there to help.
Yeah, I love that, because, coming from someone that's very unathletic and very slow, that controllable element of the game is what I love, that anybody can be good at. If you can shoot and dribble, there's going to be a place for you to play.
Right.
In those formative high school years, great, freshman to senior year, what did it look like when you were in the backyard by yourself? Like, can you give us an image of like what your workout looked like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. Actually, it was very. So I would pick my spot. So you know how we do like standard 5-spot shooting. Mm-hmm. I would hit those spots every day, but I would go stand still, catch and shoot, and then I would do off the dribble, one dribble pull-ups, side dribble pull-ups. It was very basic. It was always very simple. I've never practiced like layups once in my life. It was just always shooting. Like that's all I wanted to do, and that's what I would do. And then from there it would just be like I'd get that out of the way, get my 100, 200 makes up, whatever it was. And then from there, it was what every kid does ever in just recreating moments in their head, trying to, break down somebody off the dribble and then pull up for a shot, all that kind of stuff. But I stuck to that. I mean, and then a lot of fadeaways. I always shot, and then that ended up being a huge shot for me later down the line because I'd get plays run where I'd post up right on the left block and then fade over my right shoulder. And to me, that was as good as a layup every single time. But yeah, that's what I did.
That's awesome. And during those workouts, was it something that changed over the course of those 4 years? Like as far as whether it was reps or whether it was how much you sweat or whether it was obviously you're developing your game. But was the process very similar every single time, or how did you change your process?
Yeah, so I think I had a coach that took, his name was Coach John Lentz. He's actually, he played at Lebanon High School where Sam Bowie played. And he took like I took a big, he saw how much I loved basketball, and he kind of took me under his wing. And then he ended up getting on the coaching staff at Central Dauphin and would open up the gym for me in the summertime whenever I wanted it open. And we'd get in there, and he put me through it, man.
Yeah.
Through it. Tons of full court. It graduated to tons of full court stuff.
Okay.
Everything was full court. So if you're thinking of like a traditional shooting 5-spot drill, we would do those, but full court. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like we're going to hit if we're on that baseline, we're going to hit baseline shot, sprint to the next baseline shot. And that's how we did it. And so I worked on conditioning, right? Learning to shoot a lot more on the move, all that kind of stuff. So as I just progressed through it, it was just about ramping it up, making it more and more difficult so that it's like that expression, make it as difficult as possible. So when the game comes, it was like, this is cake. Are you kidding me? This is nothing. I could play all day. Nice.
And when you look back on your high school career, as far as in-game performances, is there a game that sticks out in your mind? Like, that was my game. That was when I played very well. What game was that?
Yeah. So we played Steel High. It was 2 games. Steel High, back when I played, Steel High was one of the top teams in the state every year. Really, really good.
Yep.
And back-to-back games against them, I think I had 9 threes both times.
Wow. We
knocked them off the one time. They were the number 1 team in the state. And then the next time we ended up losing, but I probably had the best game of my life. And it's just like one of those things, man. You just find that zone.
You had 9 threes both games?
Both games.
Got
both games. And it was just everything went in. You know how it is. Like you know what it is as a shooter. Once you start to get in that, and if you're on their floor, and have you ever played at Steel High?
I haven't. I've been there. I've never played there. I recruited there.
Man, I'm telling you, when they were rocking, that place would get so packed and it would be so hot. As soon as you stepped on the floor, you would sweat. And it was one of those things where I was making so many shots that they started cheering for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was crazy, man. It was I remember after the game, I never got that much love from an opposing fan base ever in my life.
Now, when you're making 9 threes, let's talk about the second game. Are you making them are you running off down screens? Are you hitting them off the bounce? Is it a ball screen action? How are you scoring most of those threes?
Everything. It was, I remember pull-ups, getting the ball. I ran point a lot in high school.
Okay.
And so I remember a lot of times coming, and then you start to feel it. It would just bring it up and just pull. People finding me in transition, coming off screens. It was one of those things where it honestly, I could have done the most outlandish stuff in the world, and the ball's going to find me at the bottom of the hoop somehow.
Yes. Do you remember who the best player on the other team was?
It was a toss-up between Tremaine Hawthorne and Tristan Crawford.
Okay.
Tremaine started point guard at Drexel for 3 years, and Tristan bounced around. Started out at Cleveland State, and I think he ended up at Pittsburgh State out in Kansas. Really good Division II school eventually.
Gotcha. Were you the only scholarship player on your high school team?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no. There was Casey McMasters. He ended up playing at USC Aiken, but he was a year behind me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then how did the whole recruiting process work for you with Herb McGee? I know you and I spoke a little bit about this summer, but can you kind of walk our listeners through how that worked for you, and when was the first time he saw you play and things like that?
Yeah. The first time he actually ever saw me play, he came to watch me play a game, and then the team we played, Carlisle, they boxed and won me.
Okay.
So I probably got off 3 shots. And in my mind, everybody's telling me, oh, Herb's coming to the game, Hall of Fame coach, all that. And I'm like, his assistant had been telling him about me nonstop because he'd been at every game. And he was like, we got to sign this kid. And then he comes to our –
Jimmy Riley?
Corey Stitzel.
Gotcha, yeah.
So all that happened, and then I take 3 shots. I think I made 1, maybe 2 out of 3, whatever. And talked to Herb after the game, and I'm like, I'm down about it, man. I'm down. And this will be a great message for kids because I'm like, in my mind, I lost. Like, I'm like, man, there it goes. Like, that was the chance to go. And then Herb calls the next day, and he was like, hey, Mike, I want to offer you a full scholarship.
Wow.
And in my mind, I'm like, what the heck? And he was like, I know you're probably thinking why. And he said his whole thing was, I just watched your approach before the game, and I watched your approach at halftime when you were warming up. And he was like, and watching you shoot the ball and how you were taking that process was enough for me to know that I can believe what everybody else is saying. So
great story.
So kids, listen to at all, it's not just about when you're in the actual moment of the game. How are you conducting yourself? I mean, yeah, that's within the parameters of the game, but it's not a moment that you're going to think somebody's looking at you in terms of yes or no. You know what I mean? So it's a great lesson for kids, because I thought I lost it, but my mental approach and the way I always approach things ended up coming through big for me.
Yeah, and I think that speaks a lot to, you know, one of the winningest college basketball coaches of all time. Like they can evaluate talent, they see talent, and they can see that you're going to put the ball in the hoop regardless of that particular performance, you know, because you know as well as anyone, like you could practice every day and still shoot 2 for 12, you know?
Exactly.
So you picked Philly U. You get on campus. Obviously, you played with some great players with Christian Burns and Tayron Thomas. Were those guys older than you or younger than you?
Yeah. So when I was a freshman, Tayron was a senior.
Great player.
And Christian was a junior.
Okay. So you played on some great teams there. What are some you know, when you were a freshman, you obviously were rookie of the year. You had a great rookie year. What was the biggest transition for you coming from Central Dauphin?
Strength. The strength of players. It wasn't so much the speed. The speed was never like, I know a lot of people are like the game's so much faster. I didn't find the game to be faster. I think any player that finds himself getting to those levels in terms of a Division 1, 2, even 3, like you're already, you know the game already. The speed isn't that much of a transition because you probably spent your whole life outside of when you're playing with your team, playing against older people all the time anyway. So that wasn't it was just the strength of people. That was like the big thing for me. Like I never really developed my body how I probably should have. Luckily, I could just shoot it, right? And then I had a coach that would do everything to get me open shots. So I was in the perfect situation. But if I could go back, or if I could tell anybody like this is what you need to prepare for, it would be prepare your body, because those guys are big. Playing against a guy like Christian, like people aren't going to all know who Christian Burns is, but Christian's now a part of the men's Italian national team. Right, plays for the national team for Italy, plays in the top league in Italy, has been playing over there for years and years, and he's like 6'9". He's like built like a Greek god. But you got to understand, as you progress through levels, that's how guys look. You know what I mean? And I was just 6'6", 180. You know, trying my best to get from point A to point B.
Did you, how did you work with that? Did you put on weight? Did you, you know, obviously Herb and the staff, as you guys are lifting pretty frequently. What did that look like for you, the maturation of your body?
Yeah, I didn't take it as seriously as I should have, because I think I was young. In a way, I'm young and dumb. And like, I never hold back from telling kids that. They're like, why didn't you go here? Or why didn't you make it there? And I always say that I probably didn't put in the amount of time other than basketball that I should have. Right. And that's just the set. It is what it is. Like, I didn't do that. I didn't pick up on it. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm still scoring. I'm still getting shots off. But if I wanted to progress, I probably should have taken care of my body a lot better. But I mean, we did the normal stuff, but I'm probably in better physical shape now than I was then.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We'll get into that a little bit later, the 4 a.m. club. But when you look back at playing for a legend, you obviously came in as a very good shooter. You know, I don't care who you are, if you have 9 threes in a basketball game and then do it again against the same team, you can shoot the basketball. Was there anything over the course of your 4 years that like Herb kind of changed or tweaked with your shot, or was it one of those things where, you know, you kind of just ran its course with respect to your stroke?
Yeah, from the first day I ever got there, he pulled me aside. I remember being in the gym for my first workout, and he was just like, "Mike, I'm never going to touch your shot."
Wow.
He said, "I'm not." He was like, "You do a little funky thing with your guide hand, because I move it forward just a little bit when I shoot."
Okay.
And he said, but he was like, "It goes in. I'm never going to touch it." So he never tweaked it at all. It was he was fine by it.
I love that. We, my senior year, I went to LaSalle High School. The fall of my senior year, our coach took us all down to Philly U, and it was the whole team. So he worked with all of us. But one thing that resonates with me is just the grip of how to hold the basketball. You know, I always kind of had the hand on the side of the basketball. What he did was he just spaced it out a little bit, a couple inches. And I'll never forget that. And, you know, I love looking at pictures and videos of the best shooters. And if you look at a Steph Curry or someone like that, you look at their hand placement, and the space between their thumbs is something that I love to see. And that's something that really struck with me when I worked with her.
You know what's crazy too? If you think about it, what probably makes him who he is, and then respected, and so much respected in regard to shooting, was that he looked at me and he said, "I don't need to do anything." And I feel like as a coach, that's a skill in itself, because how many of us want to just like pigeonhole somebody into doing something the exact way they want it done? You know what I mean? So I think that speaks to how confident he is, one, and then just seeing enough to be like, okay, like I can leave that alone, focus my energy elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, as well as anyone, you know, with respect to shooting, it's so much about biomechanics and how the body works, and all of our bodies work differently. All our hands work differently. So I think so much of teaching shooting is taking the strengths, maximizing those strengths, and understanding what's most comfortable for the shooter in the context of what you think is important. You know,
absolutely.
So we'll get into that in a little bit. But I want to just continue with your college career, just like we did with high school. Was there a game that you remember that was your most memorable experience? We'll talk just from an individual standpoint.
Yeah, probably. I mean, my freshman year. So I would say the two best games I ever had, freshman year and senior year. I had a game. Freshman year, I hit 10 threes. Senior year, I hit 10 threes in the game. But the memory freshman year, we're playing this team, not CW Post, just Post University in Connecticut.
Okay.
And we used to run this play they called spin. And ultimately what would happen is I would set a back screen at the top of the key for Christian Burns, right? So now whoever was guarding me had a decision to make. It was, okay, do I roll? Do I help off here to help my teammate recover for Christian Burns, because all we have to do is throw it up to the rim and he's going to dunk it, right? We cleared out the whole backside, so he had everything in Rome. Or do I, or do I stick with my guy? Do I help? What do I do? And they all chose to go with Christian every time. And so I hit 10 threes off of the same play.
Wow.
Every single time. I mean, they started to get more and more contested. But that's when you play with great players, the game becomes so much easier. Like that's not like those 10 threes were Christian's threes you know what I mean? Because he did the wrong, but I hit the 1-3, I hit the 10th three, and the electricity went out in the building.
What?
It just went black. The whole gym went black. And so then everybody was like, man, you shot the lights out literally and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, but then they finally.
So the lights came back on?
Eventually the lights came back on, yeah. But the whole gym went dark. It was crazy.
Yeah. And then the other one, you had 10 threes as well as a senior, same team?
I was against CW Post.
Okay.
No, who was that? It was a team in New York.
Pace?
That's right, Pace. Hit 10. Beautiful gym. Beautiful gym. But, yeah, had 10 threes that game, too.
And thinking back, when you are shooting a basketball, and not so much now, because I know you got a lot going on in your mind now. You're focused on so much as a teacher and as a coach. But when you were back playing in college, was there something that you focused on before you caught the ball? Is there anything that you remember, like in your shooting arsenal?
I just remember when I was finding the zone and I was most confident, I had it in my mind before that ball even got to me. If I'm coming around the screen, even if I didn't get the ball, it was about taking this mindset of this thing's going up and this thing's going in, right? But and when you're really feeling that and you kind of approach the mindset that way, your confidence is just sky high. It's just a matter of being able to continually do it, because you're not going to get the ball every time where you think you're going to get the ball and all that kind of stuff. But when I was shooting my best, that's where I was mentally. It was just like, this thing's going up and it's going in no matter what. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting because I often tell players, I don't want to flood their minds with things when they're playing the game, but when I would practice, I would be able to feel my hands on the basketball, feel that spatial integrity. I would be able to feel my elbow along the side of my body. And things weren't going well, or when things were going well, I could always go back to those couple things. And I felt like the other players weren't doing that, the guys that I was playing against. So I felt like I had kind of an edge on them, that I had this little arsenal with me that connected my mind and my body, essentially.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And, it's a hard thing to teach because you don't know what's going through their mind and what's going through their body. And you obviously don't want to flood them with information either.
Right.
So Philly, great career, 1,300 points, second all-time three-pointers made. You took a lot too. I think you're on the top 5 for attempts. But when you got done at Philly U, what did that look like for you? Were you trying to play overseas or anything like that, or what were you doing?
It was funny, man. I had different people reach out to me in regard to different agencies. But again, it was one of those things. Like I wanted to do other things. I was like, I played basketball so long. And then I don't think I was as confident as I needed to be in it. I think it was like one of this like mental barrier with me thinking like, me play professional, like, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
For me, I feel like that'd be hard for you to, you played professionally for a while. So, but like, I just didn't, I don't think I got over that mental hump of even thinking I was a professional athlete. And that was tough, man. After that transition, after playing to like kind of just integrating into normal everyday life, that was really tough.
Yeah. So you got a job. Were you doing mortgages like back then when you first got out, or what did you do?
I was working at JG Wentworth.
Okay.
You know, the commercials. Yeah, the JG Wentworth company right there in Radnor, PA. I worked there for a bunch of years.
And then just doing men's league stuff, or did you not even pick up a basketball?
Oh man, I put a basketball down entirely for like a long time. A long time, and then eventually,
I just can't believe you were hiding that stroke. I mean, that's unbelievable.
I know, man. I know. And then, but I thank goodness I got back into it. But,
yeah. How did you get back into it? You and I spoke a little bit this summer about that, but can you maybe tell our listeners? You know, I think oftentimes at the high school level, and even at the college level, everyone's trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. And I think sometimes our society pins us in this linear fashion of you go to high school, college, and then you get a job for 30. But you've kind of squiggled your way and pivoted your way into like this whole different career, side hustle, so to speak. So how did you kind of get back into hoops?
Yeah, well, a lot of it stemmed, and I don't know if we talked about it or not, but a lot of it stemmed. I was in a car accident, and then it was I was in a bad car accident. I was walking. I actually got hit by a car. I was walking across the street and got hit by a car.
Wow.
So, this was in Roxborough.
Okay.
Roxborough. So I'm in bad shape, and I start to come out of my rehab, like going through, because I tore everything in my knee. And that like set the light bulb initially to be like, do you really want to work at, is this what you really want to do for the rest of your life? Because if something were like, if I were to get hit at a different angle, or maybe that car was just going just a little bit faster, everything could have been different, right? Maybe I would have never had an opportunity to walk again. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So that kind of started putting me in this mindset of get in shape, take care of yourself. And then from doing that, it put me in this, what do you want to do? What is it? And I always came back to shooting. And in my mind, I'm like, man, I know I'm sitting on this. I'm sitting on a lot of information. I got to play for a Hall of Fame shooting coach, right? I got to go to camps and clinics with him. So I'm starting to piece things together. I'm like, I'm sitting. Me and my friends always used to talk about, man, if we win the lottery, we're going to do this. And then I had this realization. I was like, I'm sitting on my lottery ticket. And that not in a sense of like a financial huge jackpot, but of just life. Like do something you love to do. And that's where it started. And then I just started training as many people as I could, putting ads on Craigslist, getting clients that way. And just teaching whoever would allow me to teach shooting the basketball.
And how old were you at that time when you got done rehabbing and started training kids?
So that was probably 4 years. Yeah, I guess 4 years after I got hit by the car, and then the rehab, and then just I can't stress to any kid enough how important it is to take care of yourself and your body, because you take care of that, everything else will start to fall in place for you in terms of whether that be school, relationships, all that kind of stuff. Because you move, your body moves, your mind moves. And it took me 4 years to eventually start to really take those steps. I mean, I was really working out, but the basketball stuff didn't start till around 2016.
2016, got it. And I love the Craigslist stuff. So you're putting on Craigslist, I'll train you in basketball. Yeah. Who was responding to them? How were they responding? And where were you training them?
So I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and people were responding, man. I would just give my credentials in the Craigslist ad. People would call, we'd talk, we'd have a conversation, and they say, okay, like, come by. I'd like you to start training my son. All right. And so I'm just driving around these backwoods, like not even in Nashville. I'm like in Clarksboro, Tennessee, and all these different places, and just training kids. It was awesome, man. Looking back on it, it was really cool to think about where I am now, as in like where I was like really, really starting to get in that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So what What were you doing down in Nashville? What brought you down there?
So I just always wanted to live down south. I always just was like, man, I think I'm a very laid back, slow paced, like I love that. I love that. So I always wanted to move down there. Then the opportunity, I was working for Liberty Mutual at the time. And I went to my boss. I was like, man, I'd really like to see if I can go down south. And he's like, well, let me see if I can find anything. And he came out that day. He was like, there's a job in Nashville. Do you want to go? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then so we did it. And then my wife and I moved down there, and it was amazing. It brought my wife and I even closer together because we had nobody else to lean on down there. It was just us. And like so there was just so many good things that came of it. Like we became even closer as a couple, and our friendship got even better, all that kind of stuff. So it was awesome. It was a great experience.
What brought you back this way up to, because now you're living in Jersey, or you in Conchie? You're in Jersey.
Jersey. I'm in Jersey now. But we came back up because we were looking to have a baby and wanted a little more support. And at least my parents are in Harrisburg. Her parents are in Syracuse, New York. So it's manageable. Whereas Nashville is not that manageable at the end of the day.
Got it. So you come back up here, and that's when, 2015, 2016?
That would have been 2017.
2017, got it. And you started by, obviously you were training people up here. Can you tell us a little bit about how you transitioned into like the Instagram world and the social media world, as far as posting videos? And, congratulations, you just hit 200,000 subscribers. Just incredible.
Crazy.
How did that start for you?
I was not on Instagram at all, but I had always told my wife, I would always be like, man, I think I need to make videos. Like I was like, I think videos would be really good. And so I'm like searching, and I remember talking to my brother and sister. They were telling me about Instagram, and I was training this kid out in Tennessee, and he said it. And he was like, do you have Instagram? I said, no. He said, you need one. He was like, you'll never be as good as the professor. But he said, but you need an Instagram. That's what he told me. And so I created one, and my whole mindset behind it was I just want to share some type of valuable information once a day. That was my whole thing in the beginning. I'll have one post a day sharing something that I know. And from doing that, it was never like I honestly never set out to be like, I want to grow this huge following, or I was like, I just want to give out the information. Let me just give it out. And that's how it works, man. And then doing that in conjunction with being yourself while doing it, I think I always tell people that say, hey man, how do I grow my social media presence? And I tell everybody the same thing. If you want to grow it, you have to be unapologetically yourself when you're giving away the information, because people can tell so easily if you're not being genuine about it. You know what I mean? It's like a gross feeling to watch sometimes. Yes. And I'm just like, man, who are you? Like, who are you? No, who are you at the end of the day? Because what you're giving me, I know that's not you. Yeah. And I think I attribute so much of my growth to just putting my cards all in and just saying, hey man, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. You don't like it, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's a great message for our listeners, regardless of age. We talked about it. You heard me talk about it to our campers this summer when I introduced you. We get a feeling for who you are as a father, as a husband, as a shooting coach. Because you are yourself, and right. Being comfortable in your own skin. I think what holds most people back is that they care what other people think, and I think it served you very well to not care what other people think.
Right. I mean, we do. I think we all do. There's always going to be a shred of us that cares. You know what I mean? But it's, can you push enough past it and take the highs? The highs are always much better than the lows when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, I can't say that there's definitely moments, right? There's definitely when somebody's attacking you, you have like moments of like, man, this is crazy, but you get past it.
Yeah, I love following your stuff, and I see the way you respond to when people, when someone responds poorly or negatively to you, say, God bless you, brother. Thank you.
God bless you, man. Yep.
No, that's great stuff. So with respect to the social media and the content that you're putting out there, you're kind of ever evolving, and it looks better. The videos look better. The images look better. Was there anything that like struck where it was like, this started getting us more followership, or some like analytics, or I don't know anything about it, social media. Right. I post on there, but I just do what I can. Was there anything that you hit this, the algorithm or whatever?
Yeah, I would say images are huge, right? Videos are big. Videos are great. Videos get views, but I think images get people to follow. Only if those images catch the eye, right? Because boring stuff is just boring. Like, if it's boring, it's boring. Nobody cares. Yeah. Can you make it catch the eye? And then while you do that, can you make it informative? And if you can do that in a picture, right? Just a picture, a very, very simple picture, maybe 10 words at most on the picture. People love that because it's so simple. We're in a time where, like, we want things to be instant. So how simple can you make something, and how much value can you give somebody out of that post? And if you can find that with certain things, man, like, I can't tell you why that happens, but people, like, it just seems that people gravitate towards that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, well, you do a great job with it, and you're changing, you're helping a lot of players, helping a lot of coaches. I use a ton of your stuff, so I appreciate everything you're doing.
Awesome.
You reference Rob Fodor, the shooting coach at the Miami Heat, very often. You give him a ton of credit. Can you talk a little bit about that relationship, how that started, and how it's kind of morphed into what it is today?
Yeah, I call him the legend. Every time he calls, I call him the legend. I saw something that he did that I'd never seen before. And it wasn't even him posting it. Somebody else had posted it, and I like stumbled upon it. And I saw it, and I was like, man, I gotta find out who this guy is. And so I reached out. I have some friends in Miami, and I reached out. I was like, hey, who is the shooting coach for the Heat? And they were like, oh, it's this guy. Like, this is his information. And I just reached out to him, and I was like, hey, this is me. This is what I'm trying to do. Da da da. And he was like, great. He was like, I'll be in New York City 2 weeks. He was like, you should bring your wife, and then let's go out to eat and we'll talk. And so I did, and we went out. And then since that day, man, he's one of my really, really good friends now, because, like, we just connect on this basketball, probably overly dedicated to it, always looking at things. Like, we walked away from that meeting, and my wife was like, she was like, I feel like I just talked to you in 30 years. You know what I mean? And like that. And now he's just like, he's a wealth of knowledge, man. And I honestly think I've never spoken to anybody who's so knowledgeable about the game of basketball. And when it comes to shooting, it's just like, it blows my mind every single time.
Yeah, I think it's incredible too, the evolution of teaching and the evolution of learning. You know, when I think of you as a player, as a high school player, incredible shooter at the highest of levels, you know, shooting for, you know, playing for Herb McGee, and what you know about shooting. Can you maybe talk about how that some of the stuff has shifted for the better? Like, what have you learned from him that now you kind of incorporate in your own teaching?
Yeah, the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway is just the sequence of things. I never even thought about using a term like that, but so often we'll focus on the grip, or we'd say elbow, you know, that kind of stuff. Whereas one of the most important things, or possibly the most important thing to me, is, can you get a player to understand the sequence of how things have to move in order to repeat, right? So the sequence meaning we have our starting position. I'm a big fan of hand behind the ball to start, right? Lock that wrist in. But can you get a kid to understand that ball has to start to move first, right? In order to be able to have a consistent release, because the ball ultimately has to travel three times as far as our hips do when we start a shot. So the only way we can get from A to B is if we move that first, and then our legs start to attach afterwards. But if you watch the majority of kids, even guys that struggle in the NBA, Ja Morant, like, there's a bunch of them if you watch now, everything starts coming up at the same time. They really, really struggle to start to independently move that ball first. And if we want to release the same way on the way up every single time, that ball has to move first every single shot. So that, to me, was like something I never thought about. And then I'll go back and I'll watch, like, old things that I did, and I'll be like, oh man, that's terrible. Like, what was I teaching? Because what I'm looking at and what I'm saying is just it just contradicts everything that I'll teach now, because of me really actually having an understanding of it. You know what I mean? So that sequence is the biggest thing to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw a video you did with yourself shooting 5 spots, and you were actually focusing on the sequence piece of moving the ball first. Your shot looked pretty similar to what it looked like in the summer, and you got buckets in the summer for us at camp.
Right.
Did you feel different when you were doing that?
Yeah. So I'm trying my best to now move the ball in a way that the ball never has to stop moving. So my next venture is to remove the word set point out of my vocabulary, because I feel like I'm giving people the wrong idea. Like when we say set point, when you think set, what do you think?
I feel like it's here from
Stop.
yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Right? To me, when I hear set, I think stop. Where in all actuality, what I want to have happen is I want that ball to move first, legs attached after, but that ball continue to move through my shot line without ever stopping. So that's like the next evolution in terms of where I'm trying to get to. Even at 33 as a shooter, I want to master that. You know what I mean? And I want to prove that it's going to be really, really damn good eventually. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you speak to the sequence piece as it relates to what you've observed Coach doing with, you know, a Duncan Robinson or Derek Jones, someone on the Heat? Were you able to observe any of those things when you went down there?
So I didn't get to watch that, but I'm lucky enough to get a lot of video from different things. A lot of it just comes from understanding the sequence aspect of it, moving the ball through your shot line as fast as possible.
Okay.
And then the other biggest thing is what we call setting your level. And what I mean by setting your level is, can you drop your hips and move at full speed, chest up, chin up at all times at the same level throughout, right? And if we can set a level and be able to move in any direction, dead sprint, sides, whatever, with that level set, that gives us an anchor position that lets us know that as soon as we catch that ball, we can always move the ball first, right? And then it's also letting us know that if we're always in that anchor position, the amount of time or space that the ball has to move through our shot line is always going to be the same. So you're just cutting out variability in everything that you do. Duncan, if any kid wants to watch somebody that probably athletically doesn't belong in the NBA, but is one of the probably top 3 shooters in the world right now, watch how he moves, because everything is done at that level. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah. When you talk about variables and, you know, starting point and things like that, do you teach, you know, if someone catches the ball here, because you're talking about moving the ball before the body, are they able to dip that ball? Is that something you teach, where they're dipping it and making flow with with that motion?
So I'll go both ways, right? I'll do drills that 100% focus on wherever you catch the ball, I want you to go up with it.
Got it.
Because as you progress in levels, here's the thing, man. Like, my whole goal at the end of the day is to help make the best shooters ever. I don't want you to be the best shooter on your high school team. I want you to understand that I think that you can be the best shooter that ever lived, right? So that's my goal. So I want to prepare you for the highest level possible, so that when you're playing on whoever you're playing with now, this becomes easy for you. So we'll practice catching and then going up. If we're going to dip, it's more about the understanding of, can you dip but maintain your level and ensure that that ball is still going to end up moving first? Because a lot of people will say, hey, dipping happens, watch all the players dip, you should dip. But if I tell somebody, well, teach me how to dip, usually I'm going to be looked at with a blank face and no one's going to understand how to do it.
Sure.
But in reality, okay, you can dip, that's fine, but you have to get the player to buy into the fact that they need to keep their level the same, only dip the ball, and then only move the ball first before they come up into their shot. And that's very, very difficult to do. That's why we can always look, oh, Klay Thompson does it. Oh, yeah. Watch him do it. Watch how that ball only moves. His whole body's not moving, and you're looking at one of the best shooters in the world. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that I'm fine with the dip as long as you know what to do while doing it. Can we still eliminate movement that's not necessarily needed?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I could talk about this forever, man. Your insight's awesome. And, you talked a little bit about when you started working really hard and working out really hard. And for our listeners that know you, know your routine, but those that might not know you, can you talk about like your daily routine, your rituals, and waking up early, and what does that look like day to day? Is it 7 days a week? Is it 5 days a week?
Yeah, man. So it's about 6 days a week, usually Monday through Saturday. I wake up between 3:30 and 4 o'clock in the morning. First thing I do, I wake up, do my little bit of meditation, and then take my pre-workout, and I'm off to the gym to hit the weight room every morning. Every morning. If I need that part to get me going. Sorry, I just timed out there. But that's what I do first to start. Hit the weight room for an hour, 15
Lifting by
minutes.
yourself?
Oh yeah, always by my. Yeah, no one else is waking up with me that early.
Is that weight room 24 hours, or is it you?
Yeah, my weight room is 24 hours.
Gotcha.
So I'll go to my one weight room is 24 hours, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday I'll go to a different gym that's 24 hours. That the guy just lets me in because I'm just there one day a week. So I don't have a membership there, but he still just lets me in. So yeah, man, every day that's what I do. I hit the weight room, and then eventually I'll make my way over to the basketball court. Usually get some shots up, and that's how I start my day before it's off to the 9 to 5.
And that's not in the same location. The gym, the weight room's different than the basketball court?
No, yeah, they're different locations.
How far away are they?
About 5 miles apart. It's not bad.
And what's the gym? Is the gym like a high school gym, or where are you doing that?
No, it's a community center, Riverwinds Community Center in Deptford, New Jersey. It's beautiful. So it's a really, really nice facility.
Gotcha. So what's next for Mike Dunn? You've done so much in the last couple of years. You're obviously still working the 9 to 5, but you're doing a ton of training, ton of traveling. What's next?
I don't know. I mean, I just continue to get better, man. Continue to get better. Continue to learn, soak up as much information as I can, work with as many players as I can. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
You've done a couple clinics overseas, right? Where are some places that you've done clinics?
The only clinic that I did overseas is Brazil. I have a few coming up in Canada this summer. So hopefully coronavirus doesn't derail all that. And then there's stuff for Europe in the works this summer as well. But like I said, it's all up in the air now. But we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, man. Before I let you go, we've been doing a couple quick hitters. I know you're very well read, and you share this, to your audience very, very frequently. But I got 5 quick questions for you.
All right.
Maybe it's 4. I think it's 4. First one: book that you are currently reading.
Shoe Dog, the Phil Knight story. It's right next to me. So there you go.
Oh, hiding, man. That's transparency right there. Now, a book that you would recommend for the audience here. Your favorite.
My favorite book of all time is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's all about his time in the concentration camp and how he was able to get his mind to a place that his surroundings did not ultimately define who he was or where he was, where everything was stripped from him, his name, he's just given the number, all that kind of stuff. And I think for anybody that thinks that they're going through a tough time, or they think that the world is out to get them or anything read that book. And I think that will shift your mindset completely and probably put you going in a direction where you're like, I can do whatever I really want to do. It's all on me.
I love it. Awesome. Tomorrow you're going to the weight room. What's one song that you're going to listen to on the way to the weight room or while you're working out? Your favorite song?
So weight room's closed. So I've been doing my band workouts at home. But I listen to music, but not as much as you would probably think. I'm really big into words. So I listen to like a lot of stuff that you'll do when you're giving your speeches, motivating people, stuff like that. I listen to stuff like that nonstop. That's because to me, I heard once that they say words are generative, right? Words are generative. When you know the words that make up the world, you can make of the world whatever you wish. So whatever I fill my mind with every morning is going to be something that is going to allow me to move forward in some direction. And not all music will do that for me, right? Not like I don't want to rely on music, so I'll listen to motivational speakers, whatever I can get my hands on, lots of YouTube videos, that kind of stuff, but that will put me in a mindset of achievement.
Yeah, for our listeners, could you recommend who's your favorite motivational speaker or someone that you've been listening to recently?
I love Tom Bilyeu from Impact Theory. I'm really big on his stuff. And then Les Brown is incredible in terms of just the way he delivers messages. I'm a huge Les Brown fan too.
Awesome. And then we'll finish. I got 2 more. Favorite basketball shoe of all time?
The Jordan 11, black and red. Oh man, the greatest.
Yeah. You have a pair of them?
No. I've given up my shoe habit. I used to spend all my money, but now that I have a kid and a wife, and I have a mortgage to pay, I can no longer do that.
Yeah, nice. And we've asked this to our guests that are parents. Your greatest challenge, I say greatest because it's a blessing. I see the way that you are with your daughter, but your greatest challenge as a parent.
I think my greatest challenge will be getting her to buy into the fact that I think that she can do whatever she wants to do in the world. And like my whole thing is, I want to lead by example. So like, I think everybody has days where you're like, man, this isn't going right, or this isn't going right, or will I ever get to this imaginary finish line, which you won't. Like, you're always going to be continuing. But at least while she continues to grow up, if she could see that her dad is taking the advice that he's giving her, that she knows that anything is possible for her to become. So I can't give her information, say you can be whatever you want to be, if I'm not willing to do the same thing.
I love that. I love that. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you carving out time. There's so much back here. You're like a prophet. You're doing a ton of great stuff, locally, globally. So keep up the great work, man. And
appreciate you, brother.
Hopefully this gets better.
You're doing amazing stuff too, man. So don't get it. Like I tell my wife all the time, I was like, you need to see what this guy has going with his camps and everything. I love the stuff you do. I love the message that you have constantly on social media, all that stuff. I was thinking about, I was on a run today, and I was thinking about this call, and I was thinking about that kind of stuff. And I know that sometimes like we'll put stuff out there and it probably doesn't get as much of a reach as we wish it would. But sometimes that stuff is meant to only reach the people that are really, really going to do something with it. And I feel like you talk to me a lot of times when I listen to that stuff. And I'm using that to propel myself forward. So I appreciate you, man.
Hey, awesome, man. Thank you very much.
For sure, man. For sure.
And once this settles down, man, let's connect again.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Have a great day.
You too, brother.
See you, Mike.